My boyfriend 22 got a bit too close to his female friend 24 while she was on MDMA. Is this a deal breaker? Letting you all know, this has happened for the second time. So, my BF has a group of friends that he met through work and he regularly goes out with them. One of the girls in the group is also a friend of mine, so she's the one that told me all this. I know that he is particularly close with another girl called Jane in that group, and I had no reason to doubt him or her until recently. The girl got high off MDMA, and as most of you will know, it makes people more lovey than normal. However, my BF only had one beer, so he was pretty much sober for the night, so he can't use the excuse of I was under the influence of insert whatever substance. Before all this shenanigan happened, my BF was making jokes about how he's going home with Jane tonight. From what I've been told, Jane likes to specifically sit on my BF's lap when she's high for some reason, and my BF tolerated her the first time. The second time, he made sure he was the one looking after her and encouraged her to sit on his lap so she doesn't go running off. She apparently had her left arm around his neck while he had his hands placed on her thigh. Honestly, I think I could forgive him for holding on to her, but why was his hands on her thigh out of all places? Couple of minutes later, Jane gets off and just sits next to him. He really could have just sat there and watched over her, but he offered his hands, even though she didn't ask, so that she could hold onto it while their fingers intertwined. Although she was more than capable of walking, he would still carry her bridal style while she snuggled him pretty romantic, right? This is the part that triggered me the most. All of the things he did above, to some extent, be justified, but this crosses the line for me. Jane got a bit tired and wanted to lie down. Fortunately for her, it was her place, so she could just walk into her room and sleep anytime. She asked my BF if he could walk her to her room, which of course he did not hesitate. My friend saw this, but didn't think too much of it until she realized he did not come out of her room. She isn't too close with my BF nor Jane, so she didn't want to barge into her room. So she asked one of the guys at the house party to take a peek for her. He gently knocks and walks into the bedroom. Jean is fast asleep in my BF's arms while he has his head leaned against hers while rubbing her shoulder. After hearing all this, I was exhausted. He might as well make her his new GF after all the beautiful romantic gestures, right? Or am I just crazy? I'm supposed to go on a 1-week trip with him, but I don't even feel like going. Too long didn't read. My boyfriend was a bit handsy with his close female co-worker while they cuddled all night, even in the same bed. This has happened for the second time now. None of this is normal. Would he be cool with you sitting on some guy's lap and cuddling with him? This is insane. Leave. Also, I'm aware that this Jane may have some liking for the BF, but his behavior still feels inappropriate. From her POV, she's on Molly and he's specifically being super handy with her, in terms of sending the wrong signals, in terms of not getting proper consent from her, etc. In many ways he feels creepy to me here. I have done a bunch of Molly, been around friends who have done MDMA. It's a cuddly drug, no doubt, but I've never liked people who view it as a way to get into others' pants, or to even get overly handsy with them. He's the guy who is trying to do something sexual, even if it's not full-blown sex with a person who can't properly consent. That's your BF. Very creepy bastard in my book. My friend was dating someone and had almost this exact situation happen to her, and her boyfriend ended up leaving her for his friend. If he's willing to do it literally in front of people, imagine what he's doing behind closed doors. I really think you need some major self-esteem development. The fact that you ask if you're crazy, the fact that you didn't break up with him on the spot, and you had to post a big explanation. You need to toughen up, or guys will walk all over you forever. He said, I'm going home with Jane. If my partner even joked like that, it'd be really weird, and I'd be at the level you are now, emotionally. Before the rest happened, he was extremely physically intimate with her in a romantic way, repeatedly, then went to bed with her, and she was high as duck. Gross. You're nothing to him but a seat warmer. He's into Jane. He can't commit. You need to think about what you need in a guy, and if they can't be that, be prepared to break it off immediately. It's not normal. Whoever told you that you should tolerate cheating like that? As someone with extensive experience with drugs and alcohol, my opinion is this is straight up cheating. Not inappropriate or borderline. Full on cheating. If they had been alone they would have had sex. Cuddling on MDMA can be more physically intimate than even sex. Despite the fact that he was sober, this intensity is what lured him in. Try and reframe it if you disagree. Instead of partying MDMA, if they were sober. Instead of a coworker, it's the barista from Starbucks that he goes to regularly. There's even another level of creep that plays into it, which is that he's that guy. The sober guy who hangs around with people doing E because he knows this opportunity will arise. They are not all sex criminals. Some are content with this much, but a minority will commit a sex crime. Jane starts making out with him, and they have sex, but the next day she doesn't feel like she consented. It gets weird quick. Or he starts sex with her, and she denies it, but he does it anyway. I'm not accusing him of anything, but this is how these things happen. That's why it's important to not allow the conditions of sexual assault to happen. This was my thought too. Not only is her boyfriend cheating, he was also sober and taking advantage of the situation. Hanging out with a girl doing MDMA and asking her to hold his hand, sit in his lap, etc. Even when she moved. Encouraging contact. The question is A. Do you want to be with a man who cheats? And B. Do you want to be with a man who follows around high girls hoping for physical affection? No, you are not crazy. I think this crosses the line. And was the entire evening at her place? If so, then that sure cancels out the validity of any excuse about wanting to make sure she doesn't go running off. She wouldn't need any looking after if this was in her house versus in a crowded bar. Why are they acting like MDMA makes you catatonic? Him carrying her around and watching after her is unnecessary, and he's trying to take advantage of her being on drugs. Yeah. I've done MDMA multiple times and I never got to where I wasn't in control, like when being drunk. Even if that were the case for her, he did so much stuff that crosses boundaries. He didn't have to have her sit on his lap. He didn't have to cuddle or hold her hand. He didn't even have to walk her to her room. They're acting like she had no control. And like no one else their cold helped. She's using all of this to her benefit. She's not innocent at all. It's so bizarre that you don't seem to know that none of your boyfriend's actions are okay. He is straight up cheating on you. He obviously likes this girl and is being very physical with her, and you're not sure if what he's doing is okay or not. First off, for me, I'll never accept the excuse of being drunk or high. If my partner chose to drink or get high, then she's still 100% responsible for her actions after. But your BF wasn't even drunk. He let and encouraged a girl to sit on his lap, held hands with her, carried her around, cuddled with her. None of those are okay. Any one of those things alone will be a deal breaker for me. Lap sitting, deal breaker. Unnecessary hand holding, deal breaker. Snuggling, deal breaker. Cuddling, deal breaker. That's because I respect myself enough to not be with someone who's obviously thirsty for physical intimacy with other people. Bruh, seriously, if your BF has given you enough reasons to have to keep doing mental gymnastics every time he talks to interacts with someone in particular, you're going to end up twisting your nerves into knots. If that's not your idea of relaxation or fun, trust me, you don't need that. You're too young for this shit. Your BF can go home with Jane. Like he joked, every joke has a grain of truth in it, even the unfunny ones, and you can go home to your peace of mind. As the comments are unanimously shouting, this is so not okay. If you end up talking to him about this, rather than just dumping him as you have every right to do, I would ask him to consider how he would feel if you had done the exact same things with some guy that he did with this woman. Also, would he have done everything he did if you had been with him at all times? The question pretty much answers itself. People, likely including your BF, are very good at justifying their own behavior that they wouldn't accept from others. So if he doesn't straight up deny everything, he'll have all kinds of reasons why what he did was okay. After all, he doesn't want to see himself as cheating slime, so he has to convince himself that it was okay. Having done so, he will defend his behavior to the death. Because the alternative is him looking in a mirror and knowing that he is not the person he wants to believe he is. I don't disagree with the chorus of dump him, but I know that can be difficult, and you may want to have a conversation with him. I would just say, don't let yourself be gaslit, and if he does anything but acknowledge that what he did was wrong, that he made a terrible error in judgment, and asks for your forgiveness, then it's definitely time to dump him. What he did can't be tolerated in a relationship. Yeah, no. Your BF shouldn't have done any of that regardless if she is high on illegal substances or not. He's a grown man in a relationship and should not be taking care of this child woman like this. You deserve better, and you're not crazy for expecting more from him. If y'all haven't had serious discussions about boundaries, you definitely should. He should not be coddling this woman like this or offering his hand and such to her. She's an adult, and he's with you. Those things are quite intimate to be sharing with someone who is not his GF, in my opinion. But every couple has their own boundaries. I would tell him before you'll even go on this trip that you need to have a serious talk about his behavior and why he assumes it was okay. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.